We only lost 3 games. I mean, we're making it a big deal. They're going crazy. We lost 3 games. 6-3 is good.
You heard it from Calvin Ridley. The Jaguars are going to be just fine. We can throw all that messy 49ers business out the window because the next game's against the Titans. Welcome into Teal The Show. I'm Jamal St. Cyr alongside Frank Frangie. Frank, last week was bad, but this week, this is a big game. This is an AFC South game and one against a rival from Nashville.
Yeah, long season, and Calvin's right. A lot of teams would like to be 6-3 right now, and this football team is. It's a good football team. Played a lousy game last week. That's behind them. Go win this one. But it does make this one really important. The next 2 games will determine their season. 2 divisional games, one against Tennessee at home, one on the road at Houston, and you'll figure out who they are. I think they're better than Tennessee. I think they're going to play very well this week. But, yeah, get back on the winning track. I think this team's done a good job of keeping the thing, and the thing is beat Tennessee this week and don't worry about what's happened in the past.
Look, they've basically flushed that game at this point. Mike Caldwell said earlier this week that he didn't think that that was his team out there. He just saw so many imposters out on the field. So they're not worried about that game. But the one thing that we do want to kind of try and get to the bottom of is what's going on when the team plays at the bank. So far this year, Jaguars have 3 losses. All 3 of those losses have come at the bank in front of the home crowd, which is supposed to be uplifting for the team, uplifting for the fans in front of that home crowd. So far, it hasn't been the case this year. The players say they're not sure what it is, but they love playing in front of the home fans here and know they have to put on a better show this week.
You would ask me earlier, before the season started, we would lose at home. I would have told you no. I feel like we have to come out here and just put on a great show for our fans. I feel like we haven't really been giving them much to come out here and look forward to. But I feel like all that's going to change just by us just coming here and just being ourselves. And I feel like we got to start just playing great in Jacksonville. I feel like we want home field advantage in the playoffs and stuff like that. We have to just start taking care of our opportunities right now so it matters whenever that time comes.
Ain't going to happen no more. You know, and let me say one thing about the bank, man. They help us. You know, as much as we say we're 1-4 at home, like as a defense, man, they help us tremendously. So they make me play with an extra dose because they come out there to see me, and I want to give them a show. And when we get that bank rocking, it's going to be something good tonight.
It's almost like one of those strange things, Frank. You know, the home field, we talk about, well, the team wants to get home field advantage. Well, right now, they're just not playing very well at home.
Yeah, and I told you this before. I don't think there's anything to that. I think they just played poorly in some games that happened to be here. They played Kansas City and San Francisco, 2 really good teams at home. And Houston turned out to be a good team. I think that's part of it. But perception is reality. And if all of a sudden the perception is you don't play well at home, people start believing that. That's why you have to play well at home to change that perception. That's the deal. I don't believe there's a reason why you're playing badly here and good away. I think it's who you've played, but you have to change that mindset. And I think that starts with winning this game. I really do.
All right, I want to borrow that line from you. Perception is reality. And the perception right now is starting to feel like around the league that Trevor Lawrence is maybe a different player than what we perceive him to be here in Jacksonville. For the 2nd week in a row, a defensive player that the Jaguars are getting ready to go against has mentioned that you just have to take away Trevor's first read, basically insinuating that he maybe doesn't read the defenses as well. It just so happens that Arden Key is a player that was here in Jacksonville and is now playing for the Tennessee Titans.
If we could take away his first read, then the rest are allowed to get there and things of that sort. They get the ball out fast. With the first read there, he's throwing it right there and right now. If it's not, then you see the kind of hesitation, things of that sort. So we know and realize that we got to take away the first read so we're able to get to him.
It's interesting when a guy that was with the Jaguars a year ago starts to make comments like that. And this is the 2nd week. Last week it was Bosa. This week Arden Key. Both of them have said very eerily similar conversations about that Trevor Lawrence is almost like a one-read type of quarterback. But I don't think that's the feeling that the Jaguars have or that we really have here in Jacksonville.
Jamal, sports overall, and football specifically because it's a play-calling thing, is point-counterpoint. One guy does something well, you try and defend it. One guy shows a weak area, and teams notice that and take advantage of that. I think there's probably some things that Trevor does well. There's things he doesn't do as well. What I do think is he's a smart guy. He will adjust to the weak areas. So if that's really a thing, and I'm with you, I'm not so sure it is either. But if it is, you can bet it won't be the case this week. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be just fine. But you're right, he's taking a beating a little bit out there. He's a better player than people are talking about. Arden Key, you talked about Bosa last week, Richard Sherman in the media space. I think a lot of people are saying, don't think for a minute that A, That's not lost on Trevor, but just as importantly, his teammates. He's a well-liked guy in that locker room, man. That team's got good culture. It's got a good bond. I'll bet the passing game is very good this week because I think everybody will be committed to quieting some of that.
The numbers have not been great so far this year for Trevor Lawrence. They just, if you look at the numbers themselves, they haven't been that great. But the best game of Trevor Lawrence's career came against Tennessee Titans last year. So maybe they can copy-paste some of those results. They definitely like to do that on Sunday, but this is a rivalry game. This is one of those games where teams tend to not like each other. Josh Allen, Travis Etienne, they all chimed in this week saying, look, this is a rivalry game. They know it's the AFC South, and the more you play in the game, the more you tend to not like the other team.
Yeah, when I first got here, that was the very first thing. And then when Joe C came back my second, third year, that's what he said. He's like, that was one of the first things he said. Tennessee, it's a rivalry game. You know, Calais Cameron, when I first met him, it's a rivalry game.
Do you feel the juice about it? That's all I got for that. You feel the energies, team to team, and, you know, you kind of get talked about, and you feel the fan base to get into it. And then, you know, just really from last year, what the implications were both times we played them, basically trying to take over their top spot that they had all year. I mean, I'm sure we'll feel that from the kind of bouncing off of last year, if they have any animosity towards us for that. But you just feel the energy around the game just from the city to city.
Look, this is a rivalry game, and for those that have been following Jaguars history for a while, you know that there is definitely some deep-seated hatred between these two teams.
Well, particularly on this end because Jags haven't beaten them very much.
Right.
The Jags swept them last year, but before that, they had lost 8 out of 9. Now, when you lose 8 out of 9 to someone, that's almost 5 years worth of losing. So when you've lost that much to the opponent, it gets under your craw. I think that's what's happened. That's why sweeping them last year was so important. Finding a way to win that second game that you were behind a lot and that got you into the playoffs was so important. But yeah, it's a big rivalry game. The Jags really want to win this. If you look at all the things we've already talked about, Jamal, number one, they're coming off a bad performance. Number two, their quarterback's getting picked on. I think they're kind of tired of that. Number three, it's a rivalry game and it's a divisional game. If you look at all the reasons this one matters, I mean, they all matter. This one really matters for all those reasons. That's what's going to be so fun on Sunday afternoon.
This is going to be a big game. Frank, you mentioned it. The Jaguars season really comes down to these next 2 games will mean a lot. We'll start talking about more how these 2 teams match up for Sunday's game when Teal The Show returns right after this break. Welcome back here into Teal The Show. Look, this is a big game. We know that. And these 2 teams have seen each other a lot. But these are 2 very different teams and at very different points of their season. The Tennessee Titans are rolling with rookie starter Will Levis at quarterback, a guy who doesn't have a ton of experience. Trevor Lawrence, who is still a young player in the league. He's the kind of the old man in the AFC South at quarterback at this point.
Well, here's what's interesting, too. The Titans are never rebuilding, but it feels like they're rebuilding. When you go with the young quarterback, they pretty much said, Mike Vrabel said, we're committed to Will Levis. We're not playing Ryan Tannehill anymore. We're going to play Will Levis. When you go with a quarterback that young, and remember, they traded away defensive backs. They've traded away this guy and that guy. So they look like they're rebuilding. Jacksonville's been through that. Jacksonville's trying to win a Super Bowl now. So there are different places in their development. Also, I think they match up differently. The one thing the Jags have to do is they've got to pass block and they've got to run block. Of all the things that aren't great right now about the Titans as they rebuild, Jeffrey Simmons is really good, and Danico Autry is really good, and Tier Tart is really good, and they have a good front. The one thing about them that you have to concern yourself with, boy, the Jags have played some good defensive linemen, haven't they? It's one of the reasons the offensive line has struggled a little bit. This is another very good defensive front, and that's what the Jags have to be concerned with on Sunday.
Yeah, a lot of good defensive players out on the field. Notice you didn't talk a whole lot about that Titans offense because maybe it's not as dangerous as it once was. D-Hop is D-Hop at this point. Will Levis is a rookie quarterback. Derrick Henry, maybe not the Derrick Henry that we saw a couple of years ago, even though I know the folks from Yulee hate to hear that. But he's been in the league for a long time, had a fantastic career, but he's not the same player maybe that he was before.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I still think Derrick Henry's a really good player, maybe not what he was. I still think DeAndre Hopkins is a good player. He's had 300-yard games this year. But I don't think there's much around them. They've got a tight end that's athletic that they like to throw the ball to, but they're trying to break in a young quarterback behind a really struggling offensive line. Against the Tampa Bay Bucks a week ago, he had no chance. He got hit over and over and over. So the line hasn't played well. You've got a young quarterback. It's hard to be a running team with that big physical running back if you don't have any passing threat and your line's not playing well. So the Titans are struggling right now. The Jags should win this game. This is a Titans team that, because of Mike Vrabel, and I've got a lot of respect for him, in time they will be good, but right now it's a team that's struggling. It really is.
Feels like the perfect week for the Jaguars to jumpstart that pass rush, right? All right, you kind of mentioned it or teased it a little bit. How about your pick for the game? I think I know which way you're going to go.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if the Jags don't win this game. Now, look, it's an NFL game. It's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. This isn't college football where somebody's a 24-point favorite over somebody else. But I'd be surprised if the Jags don't win this game. I think they're ready to play. I think they have a better team than the Titans. The Titans are trying to find themselves with a young quarterback. I like the Jags on Sunday.
I think we can agree on that one. I think the Jaguars will bounce back. Under Doug Peterson, they've lost a few games kind of lopsided, but they've always bounced back the next week. I think this is another kind of bounce back kind of performance. When we agree, you know I got to give you one more.
Okay.
All right.
I love questions.
Last year, the first time they played the Titans, it was up in Nashville. Trevor Lawrence had the best game of his career up there. Definitely laid down a stiff arm that I know Jaguars fans still remember. Do you think Trevor Lawrence can have that type of performance on Sunday against this defense?
I think there will be a commitment to get him going. I think he's struggling. He knows that. The line has struggled. Everybody knows it's time, for your own self-esteem, for your own self-confidence, in addition to what you put on tape for the future teams you're going to play. I think this is going to be a big game for Trevor Lawrence. Given all the stuff, he's a great bounce-back guy. He's a great guy with an answer. This team was a bounce-back team a year ago. Look for a big game from 16. I really expect that.
That's what Jaguars fans love to hear. Frank, thanks for being here. Thank you at home for tuning in. Good night, everybody, and go Jags.